For over 3 decades, Stu Bradin served on the front lines of some of America's most critical special operations missions. I sat down with Stu during this year's SOF Week to talk about why he founded GSOF, what it takes to bring together over 60 nations and 85 industry partners, and how his experiences building NATO SOF headquarters and leading interagency teams shaped the Foundation's mission.
Most small businesses fail because of catastrophic success, not catastrophic failure. If you're wrapped in metal, you have zero probability of surviving.
Stu also broke down how GSOF accelerates innovation, helps SOF units and partners connect in real time, and creates space for public-private collaboration that can meet the speed and complexity of modern threats to answer the hardest question of today. This episode is about global leadership, unity of effort, and how one Green Beret's post-military mission is to help shape the future of special operations across the world.
I wouldn't want to be on the modern battlefield. Now with thermals and people being able to detect you, and I don't see stealth technology coming out in the way I think it should be. It's out there, but it's not.
Stu, welcome to the Jedburgh podcast.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
We're on the floor at SOF Week. We're in the Tampa Convention Center. This is the brainchild of the combination of SOCOM and the Global SOF Foundation, which you are leading and have been for the last several years. But what an absolutely incredible event.
Thank you. Great team effort. So we got a great team that put this together. A lot of folks involved. I mean, there's probably 1,300 people involved in making this go.
Well, we're sitting underneath the escalators.
Yeah.
So we've commandeered what was, somebody informed me a few minutes ago, had been a storage room. And I said, actually, it looks a lot better as a podcast studio.
Yeah.
So put your storage stuff behind there. But Jason's over here laughing. But we got, in 2024, you had over 19,000 people. You're expecting to meet that this year. There's over 800 different vendors who are presenting out here on the floor across, multiple venues out here in the Bay. They got multiple floors here in the convention center. And the whole goal of SOF Week is to present to the global special operations community the capabilities that exist for their organization. So I want to start by asking you the Global SOF Foundation, the importance of it, and why it's so involved in bringing the global SOF community together.
So I retired from SOCOM in 2014 with 32 years. I'm a quitter. And so I worked for Admiral Bill McCraven for the last few years that I was in the military. I ran an operational planning team for him at SOCOM, and one of the tasks we had was to support the U.S. Geospatial Intelligence Foundation's GeoInt here in Tampa. Of course, nobody at SOCOM, nobody at CENTCOM wanted to cooperate with them. Admiral McCraven sent them to me and said, fix this. And so in the process of supporting them and getting GeoInt here in Tampa, which was awesome, we brought in operational commanders to talk about how they use geospatial products and change it, not nerds talking to nerds, but operators talking to, the engineers, so it was really a good experience for me. And the entire time, the folks at USGIF kept asking me, why doesn't SOF have a professional association, And I'm like, hell, I don't know. I mean, I didn't know what a 501c3 was. Every time I Googled it, I was more confused. And, we had something for SF, we had something for SEALs, but we didn't have anything that was joint. We just didn't have that. And so I was getting a lot of very good offers from private sector to come join it, and I just wanted to keep serving. So we created GSOF. We're 11 years old this year. In 2020, we were designated by the U.S. Department of Defense as a National Military Association. So we're on that short list with USAA or AUSA, Navy League, Air Force Marine Corps Association, all those folks. But what makes us different is we're international and we're joint, and nobody else is that way. So it's pretty cool that we're doing that. We're also the new kids on the block, which we have a great, we have great interaction with all the other professional associations. So we enjoy working together and with each other to help each other out. So not many people see that or know that behind the scenes. One of the cool things about being a National Military Association is you get to support SOCOM and SOLIC with their national convention. And so we met with General Clark and Master Chief Greg Smith and Mr. Jim Boycell, the DCOS at SOCOM. And we just said, we pitched them, and we had a lunch at the SOCOM headquarters. We said, we think you ought to change SOFIC to SOF Week and we just made up Soft Week. You could have called it anything else. It sounded cool at the time. It was easy.
Sounds cool now.
Yeah. And so General Clark liked the idea. I mean, he understood, AUSA. He understood the whole national convention. Part of what you have to do as a soft commander in a joint environment is you have to unite your tribes. Sounds real easy, but we all know that, you have all these type A meat-eating personalities that, are all rogue warriors at the heart of everything. And so, for the SOCOM commander to convene his entire enterprise as well as the international community in a single location, well, that's what it's all about and stuff. And so SOCOM decided to go with Soft Week. We won the solicitation. We ran our first event in 23. We ran our second event. This is our third event this year. I think we're on track to hit close to 23,000 people, attendees that actually come in and attend the show. We're over 800 exhibitors. And what I'm really proud of is I can give you the statistic now. Last year we had 711 exhibitors. Of the 711, 509 did not exhibit in 2023. So you're seeing new capability, new technology. You're not seeing the same old stuff. We have 327 corporate partners in Global Soft Foundation, and we encourage them not to bring the things they've already sold to the government. We're looking for new technology. We're looking for a lot of new things. So we've done pretty good this year. We've got a lot of new things that we've added to the event, and we've basically completely reorganized from top to bottom.
Talk about the small business forum. So sitting actually behind us are a number of different breakout rooms, and they're kind of all coded the small business forum, small business rooms. There's been a big push, at the federal level and even at the state level. My security and operations company, FR6, focuses in the small business market and the service disabled set-aside market in New England, primarily in New York. But there's been a lot of push in governments in order to get small businesses involved. How come that's become a priority of the organization too?
Honestly, for SOCOM, Fran, it has been forever. You're required to have about 30% of small business, but SOCOM is well above the 40% level in everything they do. Look, if you've been around, I've been doing this 11 years now, and, the innovation comes from small business, right? It's some person in their garage, they're coming up with the flux capacitor, whatever it is that's awesome and neat and new and inspiring. And that thing is just, at some point in time, they have to scale. And that's when the bigger businesses come in and they either partner with them or buy them or, so what you're seeing now is most of your mergers and acquisitions for small businesses is with private equity because it's lucrative. And there's a lot going on in the national security world, the defense world. And so you're seeing that's a new player in the game, private equity. They come in with money, they can infuse the situation, whereas privately held, publicly traded companies can't do that. They don't have the same level of flexibility and stuff. And so the small business is really, really important because that's where your innovation is. We in GSOF, I think we have about 220 small business partners in our organization. And you're seeing a big push right now by Senator Joni Ernst. She's now the chair of the Small Business Committee in the Senate. And she's got huge legislation going for. Most people don't know that about 78% of all the cyber money goes to publicly traded companies. That's not what Congress envisioned when they created the small business set aside. So, it's taken a left turn. Senator Ernst has got a phenomenal coalition, a bipartisan coalition to fix that. You're going to see it fixed and stuff. And it's good for big business. Like our big corporate partners are very much in favor of having the small businesses. They're very critical to their teaming and partnering on major contracts. They also buy them up, they do. It's why innovate when I can just buy you?
Yeah.
And that's not, that's business. That's good for everybody. That's not a bad thing. A lot of the smaller businesses they get awarded a contract and they can't scale. So they get bought up or they partner with a larger company that can actually do the scaling. And so it helps. Most small businesses fail because of catastrophic success, not catastrophic failure. They win a contract and they can't produce the numbers and do the stuff. So it's a really good, it's a symbiotic thing, it's a love-hate relationship. But they're very, very important to SOCOM and they're very, very important to GSOF. And, if you want innovation to keep happening, you got to keep supporting small business. That's just a fact.
The 9th Annual Global SOF Symposium Europe is taking place in Athens, Greece this October 7th to 9th. An exhibition with over 70 industry organizations showcasing their capabilities and networking opportunities along the Mediterranean Sea. The Jedburgh Media Channel will be there hosting the International Senior Leader Defense Panel, recording interviews with our partners and allies, and bringing you the most up-to-date look at how Europe conducts special operations across the world. Join us in Athens this October 7th to 9th. Registration is now open at gsofeurope.org.
Well, I want to ask you about innovation because, as you mentioned, we've got over 800 vendors here out on the floor, and it's a whole range of things from the most tactical ammo pouches and kit to missile systems and UAVs and drones and all sorts of stuff out here on the floor. Innovation has sat always at the forefront of when we talk about military readiness, preparing for the next conflict. I've been very fortunate to sit down with the current Sergeant Major of the Army, Mike Weimer, the former Sergeant Major of the Army, Dan Daly, sat down with General Braga, General Ferguson. We've spoken about innovation and technological advancement in every single one of those conversations, including my recent conversation with Colonel Gabe Zodi at 5th Group, where we talked about, what does it look like to change the MOS pattern in the ODA now to actually incorporate a robotics or a UAV technology-driven MOS. When you look at the next battlefield, it's kind of a two-part question here. Number one, how do you define the next battlefield as we see it, and why is the technological advancement more critical now than we've seen in past conflicts?
So I've been to the Ukraine. I helped stand up their special forces in 2015, helped them build their joint soft headquarters. 10th Group came in right after that and started partnering with them, and they did a phenomenal job up until the point in time they got pulled out. If you go to Gaza and if you look at the Ukraine, and I'm not trying to fight the last war, but I'm just telling you what I saw that scared me. You can't mass. If you're wrapped in metal, you have zero probability of surviving. You will be detected and you're going to get hit. And if you think
tanks and armor,
everything, helicopters, jets, everything. Like if you are wrapped in metal, you won't make it. It's just, and I watched it. The other thing is EW, electronic warfare. I've never seen anything like. I grew up in the 11th Armored Cav as a 19 Delta Cavalry Scout on the East-West German border, watching the Russians watch us. And in the old days, their EW, they would just jam every band, shut down everything.
I mean, we did that in Iraq.
But now it is extremely precise. It's extremely sophisticated. I mean, I tell you right now, almost every drone that we send over there does not work after 30 days. Less than 30 days, I give it 30 days. But usually by the 14-day mark, they have figured it out and shut it down. And so what's interesting is, in the old days, our engineers would sit back in the United States in an air-conditioned laboratory somewhere, with great computing capacity, trying to figure out workarounds. And that you can't do anymore. They've got to be forward. And they've got to be close to the operator because you don't have weeks and months to do it. And so a lot of the innovation is happening, I'm not kidding you, at the FLOT. It's crazy to see a bunch of nerds up there. It's awesome, though. I mean, you want to see the entrepreneurial spirit, the people, watching people just work through tremendous problems. Watch the Ukrainian special operations with the engineers. It's amazing, man. I mean, same in Israel. It's the same situation in Israel. You can't just assume that your enemy's ignorant, because they're not. A lot of these technologies have proliferated everywhere. So again, it's evened up the battlefield quite a bit, but you can't mass anymore. If you do, we have in the United States of America, we have a problem because most of our military is non-deployable. It can't deploy. It's too big. It's too heavy. Takes too long to get there. When it does, it has to do it in a permissive environment. Right? Well, who the hell is going to give you a permissive environment to do this in? Like, every doctrine in the world is to deny you permissive entry into the battle space. And so all these huge formations that we think we're going to get in are not going to get in. And then once you get in there, you can't employ them because they're too easy to detect. And with all these long-range fires, I mean, they're popping you 1,000 miles out.
Yeah, not
everything is precision.
Yards.
Like, when General Berger was the Commandant of the Marine Corps and he got rid of tubed artillery and tanks in the Marine Corps, they called him everything but his Christian name. People hated him. All these old Marines wanted him dead, killed, and now the guy looks like Nostradamus. Because everything is FMV, it's precision, it can go long range, it's got endurance, it could stay on target. A lot of this, this precision fires is just so accurate now that it's just hard to survive. I don't, one of the coolest things I saw in the Ukraine were infantry guys on electric bikes at night with NVGs flying down the road. You think it's crazy, and the guy leans over to me in his Ukrainian accent and will tell you that, they can probably get 2 of them, but you can't get all of them. And in a BMP or a BTR, you'd get all of them.
Yeah.
And you're not doing that. So folks are being innovative about how they approach the battle space and stuff. And, I just think you're seeing a lot of things. The technology, you're going to see more space-based stuff. You're going to see AI is going to change everything with predictive analysis. You're going to be able to, within 3 years, to be able to plan operations plus or minus within 80 to 85% probability of accuracy. So you're not going to need tons of stuff. Like, again, mass was designed to break formations. And now you've got these long-range fires and stuff, and you can be very precise, especially, when you're in a non-contiguous environment. For the Rangers, that means non-touching.
Yeah.
And so,
which is hard for them to do.
Yes. So we've fought in a non-contiguous environment for, a lot of our wars and stuff. And so that, with the space that's between those contiguous entities is, who governs it, who secures it, and a lot of that's going to be done through autonomous systems. And so, I wouldn't want to be on the modern battlefield with thermals and people being able to detect you. And, I don't see stealth technology coming out in the way I think it should be. It's out there, but it's not being resourced. I think the value of special operations and all of this is AI can't give you a personal relationship. It can't do it. Only you can do that. And I think that matters tremendously. I think personal relationships between people enabled by AI and all this technology is a incredible fighting force. I mean, it really is. Yeah. And then AI can't do crazy. Like if MacArthur went up to AI and said, hey, I want to do the Incheon invasion, the worst location in all of Korea to invade, AI would have told him, don't do it. You're out of your mind. Don't, and we'd have never had the Incheon invasion. And so those are some of the things. But I think when you have personal relationships mixed with technology and people that think forward, and I think special ops is, look at this venue, man. Nobody does this. Yeah. There's no other service that does this. You bring in all these different countries, all these different technologies. I mean, who does this? No disparaging, but there's no other, only SOCOM can do this. I've told General Fenton this 100 times. If I was Secretary of the Army or Secretary of the Defense, I'd give him a line item budget to run this every year. I don't know how many ministers of defense are here, chiefs of defense. They're not here just to hang out in Tampa. They're here because they know this is valuable to them. They understand the value of special operations to their formations. And then they know that this place is just jam-packed with technology. But, half this stuff I've never seen before. It's cool. I would like to take half of it home and play with it, but they don't let me do that.
You don't have the right authorizations for that.
No, exactly.
There's a couple of lines that I want to pull a little deeper on. Number one, you talked about the partnership aspect of things, and you in the conversation, in your explanation, you use, and we've heard the term and use it all the time. You have joint and combined. Joint being the interoperability between Green Berets, SEALs, Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, and we got our Coast Guard brothers are out there on the water protecting it today. And now the Space Force too, which I got to remember because there was no Space Force when I was in.
Yeah.
But then you have the combined aspect of it, and the combined aspect is the international partners. As SOF, we understand that our mission is to operate and work by, with, and through, because that's our combat multiplier. That's how we take a 12-man detachment, we put it forward, and we partner with 400, 800 of our partners, and we don't have a 12-man force. We got an 812-man force.
Correct.
And you see that front and center here when you walk the floor, and you see different uniforms and everybody walking around. And you see that here in SOCOM too, when you have, I think the number is 26 or 27 LNOs or 28 liaison officers that sit in the headquarters here, whose sole job it is to coordinate SOF interoperability between U.S. Special Operations and their host nation Special Operations capabilities. Allies have been front and center in the national debate over the last several months, yeah, I'd say even the last several years, and we really saw NATO come back into the forefront of discussion with Russia's invasion into Ukraine several years ago. You were an instrumental part of NATO in your time, in your 32 years of service, as well as your time serving at SOCOM and in JSOC, working hand in hand with our NATO partners. Talk for a minute about the importance of NATO, why that's an organization that America has to continue to put at the forefront of our national security policy, and why SOF continues to put the interoperability with our SOF partners at the forefront of their strategy. And you heard General Fenton talk about this a couple weeks ago in Congress.
So I'll give you a quick history of the whole NATO SOF headquarters, now called SOFCOM, real quick. In 2004, at the Olympics in Athens, Greece, it was right after 9/11, and we really didn't have anything SOF-wise, because in those days we had a maritime, land, and air component in NATO. We did not have a SOF component. So, what we needed for that event was a SOF component headquarters. And in those days, only 3 countries could do it: U.S., UK, and France. And I love my French and British brothers, but for them to do it, they'd have to shut down every other operation they were doing worldwide, which is not feasible. The U.S. could bulk up and do it. So as a out product, 30 days out, Secretary Rumsfeld said, hey, NATO, the U.S. will be the framework nation for the SOF component in Athens. Of course, we did the Olympics. Nothing bad happened. A bunch of staff officers came away from that and said, we need a NATO component. That got built by General Jones. But the people behind that was Admiral McCraven, General Adrian Bradshaw, and General Benoit Puga, the French, the Brits. And at that time, they said, there's only 3 countries that can do all this, and we can't survive if we don't do it. So fast forward to where we are today, it's 2025. There's 17 countries that can now be the NATO SOF component. They're certified. They have the capability. They have the equipment. So it's not some, hocus pocus crap. It's they can do the mission. And so that's when you look at partnerships and what you do to develop it. Now you've got Europe as a very mature SOF environment. And so the real question now is that how do we get them to do things outside of Europe? And so the big focus right now is the Indo-Pacific. And I tell the Europeans this every single day, that 40% of their GDP flows to or through the Indo-Pacific. And most of them have no means of protecting their national interests in that region. And their SOF is fully capable of doing it. Their SOF is fully capable of going to the Indo-Pacific, working with partner nations and building those partner nations out. You can't mass and you can't deploy a force large enough to that region in a timely manner to be a deterrent. You just can't do it. Our deterrent is having the best partners we can. And I think having our European partners help us develop our Indo-Pacific partners is the only way you're good. Have you ever flown there, man? I flew Thailand 3 times last year. That will age you in dog years.
18 hours.
30.
Yeah. Well, from LA.
Yeah, it's insane. The whole thing is that, and we think we're going to fly. I mean, we flew a Patriot battalion from Korea to the Middle East, and it took 73 C-17s to do one. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That's not. So you're gonna fight with what you have, and so our big focus needs to be on building out our partners. So they have a credible defense, a deterrent. I'm also big in collective defense. That's when a nation basically turns itself into a defense mechanism like Switzerland, Finland, Sweden, where everybody goes in. Israel, you do your 18 months, you go in the reserves. If you attack the country, immediately your ranks swell to trained personnel. And people have to really, your calculus when you look at a country that can do that is totally different. Like you're like, they are 150,000, but they can be 500,000 in 48 hours. I mean, do you want to bite into that apple? I don't, you have to think really hard about how you do that. I think the only way you do that is through having credible partners, having the interoperability. And so that's what you've got to focus on with our partners and stuff.
So do you think that as America, and we've had a number of different conversations regarding culture in America, what we've called a propensity to serve. And there's different points of view when we talk about the next generation. You hear people who say, well, the next generation is soft, they're weak, they can't do it. But people said that about the World War II generation. People said that about every generation says that. And yet everybody seems to always stand up as Americans and lead the nation. I think there's an argument that can be made that it usually always takes some impetus, some big event that drives people into that service. Do you think that as Americans, we've lost a will or a propensity to serve and that we need some sort of mandatory service?
I think we've always had this in our history. Like, I mean, you gotta remember, we back into wars. We don't run to them. Like, we do everything we can to avoid a war. And then we come staggering in at the last minute, and our reaction is it's violent. I mean, it's way more than it probably should be. I have 3 daughters, so I kind of understand the young generation, and I don't think they're weak. They're smart. They take their information differently. They think differently, but they're no different than we are. They're physically fit. They're smart as hell. I would not want to compete with them intellectually because I would just get annihilated quickly. And I just think that, they are going to do fine. But everything's a function of leadership. If you give them good leadership and if you work with them, they're going to do great things. I mean, I look at what they're going to be our future, whether we like it or not. So we've got to make sure that they are armed to do the right thing. There's always going to be people that don't want to do squat. They're just going to leech on society. And, as far as I'm concerned, you just ignore them and keep moving around them.
They're not in this room, I can tell.
No. You asked me about the, conscript. Listen, you get a lot of different people say different things, but the U.S. military is the greatest social ladder in the world. You can be the biggest screw up. I tell everybody, if you just do what the sergeant tells you to do, you're gonna leave middle class. Your family's gonna be taken care of. You're gonna have a phenomenal annuity, and your family will be taken care of. You're gonna be in great shape if you just do what the sergeant tells you to do. Some people, it's hard for them to do that. They're a little hard-headed, but usually the sergeants have patience and they'll work with them. But I would like to see, more people in the military. I think some of our standards are ridiculous, to be honest with you. When I came in, we weren't looking for choir boys and girls. I mean, a lot of them had bad past, but they were able to get into the military and they did what the sergeant told them to do, and they became phenomenal, productive members of our society. And I think, we need to give the NCO Corps a lot more latitude. You can't beat them up or everything, but, we need to give them more latitude in building the force. They might have to be a little bit louder in how they approach things and a little bit more aggressive in how they do it. But this generation they love challenges. I mean, they really do. They love doing weird stuff too, by the way. They'll jump off a bridge. They'll do all kinds of crazy shit. So if you let them. So they're not scared. They're not cowards, but they are different and they receive information differently. And, I have faith in them. I'm not a woe is me, just not that way. I think there's a lot of goodness out there I think if we got attacked and there was a catalyst, you would see people come from everywhere.
We talked about the upcoming generation. We've talked a bit about the technology that sits out here on the floor. When you look at the next fight, what do you think it is?
I think it's small groups of well-equipped, intelligent human beings going at precise locations at precise times based on predictive analysis.
On behalf of nation states, terrorist organizations, who's the threat?
The X doesn't matter. Oh, the threat? We never get that right. So, no one expected 9/11. But you got to remember when 9/11 happened, we just brought in the chairman because we were going to be space-based and Indo-China focused, Indo-Pacific focused. And then the towers came down and it looked like a land war in the middle of the Middle East. And so we were all, look at us. We got called in special ops. Everybody goes, oh, you guys don't know anything about, near-peer competition. The hell we don't. We've been doing it for 50 years. When 9/11 happened, we transitioned to direct action because our country asked us to do that. It's part of our mission set. Okay, roger that. Direct action. And and the teams took off, and that's exactly what they did. And then as all that tamped down, people are like, well, what are we going to do with special operations? Because, they don't really fit into the the gray space, the competition space. The hell we don't. Like Russia, China, fighting through their surrogates all over the world. What the hell you think we did for our whole... JFK built SF and the Peace Corps to counter that stuff. But we've been doing this our whole lives. I mean, just open up our history books. This is not new to us. This is what cracks me up. I'm like, I don't know what people's history looks like or where they get their information from, but it's obviously not deep. But, you know, anything about the special ops community, it's clear that we are really, really good at this stuff. Now we are really good at manhunting. So you saw Jimmy Reese, the guy that waved us in here, but, you know, those guys, you know, were at JSOC, they basically formed the nucleus of manhunting. We were, Manuel Noriega, 3rd or 7th, you know, we couldn't find him. He's running around, going to Papal Nuncio, all that stuff. Nowadays, no, if you're a bad actor, man, they have incredible means to find you. And so that part, you know, the counterterrorism part is really refined and it's industrialized. And then I think everything else is meeting with our partners, building we have to work harder at our language skills. When you're in direct action, you don't have to do as much of that as you, but you got to do more of that. As I say, you know, the whole dancing with wolves, you know, Tatanka, we got to get out there with them and find the buffalo. You know, you got to live with the host nation.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's the deterrence piece.
Yeah,
you know, we create deterrence by having that forward presence with our partners.
100%. Look,
as SOF,
you know, 100%. It doesn't take a lot. If people know you can get to them quickly, they have to calculate for that. They have to calculate for what they can't see as well as what they can see. And if there's a whole bunch of special ops dudes within reach that can strike you, and you have to calculate for that. And that takes a lot of assets. It will strip combat power away from all of their efforts just to counter that effort. Even if it doesn't move on the chessboard, it will strip away combat power from.
In congressional testimony a couple of weeks ago, General Fenton talks about the procurement process and the difficulty in the procurement process and the need to fight the next battlefield that we're talking about is going to require a more streamlined procurement process. I feel like, you know, I've heard that for the past 20 years. You know, we've seen all of our senior leadership at every level that we've had over the last year or so say the same thing. How does that actually get done? How do we get the billions of dollars of equipment that sits out here behind us into the hands of the warfighter?
Only people that can do that's Congress. Article 1 of the Constitution, raise the Army, maintain the Navy, that falls to them. The problem is once you have a program of record in their district, hey, that thing will live forever. It'll be obsolete, but they will not kill it. Won't let it go because it's voters, they're in their district and stuff. And so you've got to take that away from Congress. You can't let them, you got to have multi-year things. You got to move away from these huge programs like this. Some of them you're going to have to, you can't, but at the end of the day, most of the stuff we're fielding right now is not going to survive first contact. Like an aircraft carrier, you can't get it in the inner islands. I don't think you can get it in the second island chain. So now you got single engine aircraft. How many refueling flights is it going to take to get to the target? You're going to be flying tankers that's what's going to happen.
In a denied area.
You're going to move. So you're going to move an armored division from El Paso, Texas. You're going to muster it, load it up on a railhead, drive it down to Beaumont, Texas, load it up on the railroads, ship it all the way across the ocean, take it to a point of debarkation, break it all down, load all the ammo, load all the fuel, and you're going to do this in a permissive environment. Nobody's going to bother you the whole time. This is all just peaceful process. Fantasy. Absolute fantasy. If you read Chinese doctrine, they absolutely will deny us that. Their goal is to not allow the big blue arrow to mass. We wouldn't do it. Like, why would I let you mass? Why would I let you build your power to hit me? No, not going to work like that. So a lot of this technology, Congress is going to have to look. I'm not an advocate for less of a defense spending. It's just got to be different, and you've got to educate Congress on, hey, we don't need this product in your district. We need your district to make this product, right? And so it's tricky, because votes matter to them, and so. But at the end of the day, they've got to have the moral courage to do it. And I don't see the leadership to do it right yet. I love them. And they're all great people. They all want to do. The one thing about dealing with the Hill is national security. Everybody is on board. We're lucky, man. Nobody's rooting for the other team. I met with them all. I was there 2 weeks ago. They all are, they're all proud of this country and they all want to defend it. But, you got to get a lot of different people to say yes to make something like that happen. And the people on the national security side, on all 4 of the defense committees, amazing. True patriots, love their country, love the military and everything is, they're due for it. But when they turn to their colleagues, it's an uphill fight.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've had this appropriation discussion in detail on the Hill over the last couple of months as we've gone and sat down with a number of representatives from both sides of the aisle. And I agree with you. I mean, I think to a person, everybody is there and coming to work every day to do the right thing, invest in American defense. And I think everybody shares the same perspective that we've got to do something differently. But I do think you talked about leadership earlier. It comes down to leadership. Who's going to stand up and say, this is what we're going to do. This is what the next fight requires. And it might be a little painful right now, but it's required in order to protect America.
I mean, SOCOM's budget's been frozen since 2019.
Yeah, meaning they're getting the same amount of money every year since 2019.
So in real dollars, it's a different number. It's 14% less just on the top of it. So fuel's gone up, O&M. So what's happened is SOCOM's had to strip away money from training and readiness as well as modernization to fund data. And you heard General Fenn today, or the Secretary, operations are up 200% contingency operations. Well, who's paying for that? There's no fund for that. So all that's SOCOM's got to pull all that out of hide. Well, what happens is you have less flight hours, less training hours, less ammo, less. And that's what happens. And ultimately you have a less trained force. And you'll end up getting people killed because of it. Yeah. And so, I just think that, Congress has got to have the moral courage to fix SOCOM's budget. I'd double it. People go, oh my God. I don't mean overnight, you know what I mean? But I would definitely enable SOCOM much more. They're your only deployable force right now. There's a few things out there, that you can deploy, but it's the strategic force that you can move around on the map and make people stay awake at night.
Yeah. Well, we got to let you go here in a minute because you got a long day and I know there's people waiting for you upstairs. But I want to ask you, as you look back, you walk through these halls here, you look around, you sit in the conversations with, not only our U.S. and American leaders, but our international partners, and you reflect on your career. What does it mean to be a Green Beret? What does it mean to be a Green Beret?
My father was on active duty when I came on active duty. This is all I wanted to do. I knew it. I was around Green Berets. My father would serve with, Ola Lee Mize in Vietnam. He did 2 tours there. I knew exactly what it was all about. As a high school kid, I got to run around Camp McCall in the summer times, out there blowing up stumps with the engineers and stuff like that. So I wanted to do this. I'm inspired, because this is our time. And I mean that. This is our time, the Special Ops time. It may not be like this in 20 years. It may be more space-based, seriously. But right now, this is our time. And I love serving. I got a great team. They're full of zealots. Everyone believes in our mission and believes in this cause. I also think we could lose this. This is not a guarantee, what we've got. So I'm a huge believer in our international partners. We've got to bring them along. I'm a huge believer in the Special Ops community. I think it's the best weapon we have right now. It's soft cyber intel, information, and economics. That's how you're going to win the competition fight. You're not going to win it with armor divisions. And I started out as an armor cav officer. Sorry for all you guys that are freaked out about that, but that is a fact. I've watched M1s burn. They burn if they're 50 tons. They burn if they're 70 tons. They cook the same, And so I just think this is the Special Ops time. I look back and I'm just proud of the whole formation and stuff. We could get better, but right now we're doing really well as a community. And we just need to keep, focusing on, what we are good at.
Yeah. It's kicking ass.
That's right.
And getting ready for it. Stu, thanks for your hospitality. Thanks for welcoming me to the Jedburgh podcast and the Green Beret Foundation to solve.
Hope I haven't bored you.
No, this was, absolutely really an incredible, insightful perspective on where we sit, today as a soft formation, where we got to go, the threats that are out there, and how we're going to prepare our people to do it. We hear a lot this week about people are more important than hardware.
Amen.
We see a lot of hardware out here, but as we talked about, it does come down to the people.
Absolutely.
It comes down to their leadership, and thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Thank you.
American Jedburghs went on to form the foundation of the United States Special Forces and the Special Activities Directorate of the Central Intelligence Agency. Thanks for listening to the Jedburgh Podcast, an official program of the Green Beret Foundation. I'm your creator and host, Fran Rachopi. Join us next week for a new episode on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on YouTube for full episodes, highlights, and other long and short form content. If you like what you heard, give us a like and leave a review. Follow the Jedburgh Podcast and the Green Beret Foundation on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, X, or Threads. Send your comments and inquiries to fran@jedburghpodcast.com. As former members of Special Operations Forces, the Jedburgh Media Channel and the Green Beret Foundation remain committed to supporting all generations of U.S. Army Special Forces and their families. Thanks for joining us on this episode. How you prepare today determines success tomorrow.